Welcome to another episode of Just Talk with Gabe. I'm here, my sidekick is here, and so is our guest. Let's get started. Who do we have today?
Today we have one amazing jazz musician, Preston Smith, on the show.
Looking forward to hearing all about his music.
Absolutely, but before we get started, let's give a shout out to our sponsors, Fade Life Clothing and BCK Online.
Fade Life Clothing is a unique clothing line out of Atlanta, Georgia, geared towards those who love intoxicating style.
And BCK Online is a digital online magazine that keeps you in the know, up to date on the lives of young entrepreneurs, entertainers, rising stars, parents, and much more.
All right, go grab your snacks, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Preston, welcome to the show. We're glad you could join us for an episode of Just Talk with Gabe.
I appreciate you having me on, Gabe. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for being on. Now, I know our listeners want us to dive right in, so let's get into it. You are an amazing musician. Tell us how you got started in the industry.
Well, a lot of musicians get started the same way I did. I started in school, and then I started playing in church. And so playing in church kind of got me used to playing in front of audiences, and that's what kind of got me into improv and stuff as well. Playing the same things over and over, you start embellishing and stuff like that. And so, I guess church is pretty much the main thing. And then when I went to school and college, I played in college and started playing in bands and stuff, and gigging. And once I started gigging, that's kind of when everything kind of took off. That's when I really started playing, I guess.
That's cool. Now, actually, kind of want to jump in and ask a question. What music instruments do you play?
Mainly trumpet. I always make a joke that God put a trumpet on my face so I wouldn't sing. You won't, you won't hear me singing very much at all. I play, any brass instrument, but trumpet, flugelhorn is really the horn that most of my recordings are on. Flugelhorn's like what Czech Mangione played on. It's a little bigger than a trumpet. But that's really, for whatever reason, that's been my niche. Trumpet is a general term sometimes, but the flugelhorn is really what I spend a lot of my time on. It's just a little bit more mellow, a little more laid back. Trumpet's a little more aggressive. So,
yes, yeah. So, what is your favorite genre of music?
I like all types of music, honestly. I was a classical trained player going into school when I went to college, and obviously through high school, I did some jazz. I fell in love with jazz in my mid-range of my college career. And, one of the things about me is I grew up on rap. And so
Right.
house music and rap and because in the late 80s and early 90s, when all that stuff, hip hop and all started popping, that was a big influence on me because that's what I listened to. And,
Right.
so if you listen to smooth jazz, it's got the R&B type feel to it. And so most of what I play now is funk and R&B type stuff, smooth jazz. But contemporary jazz is what was when I was in the Grammy ballad. That was the contemporary album was what mine was up for. And I love to do crossover. I was in Hollywood for the Indie Music Awards the year that I won it, the whole thing, and as
Oh,
Artist
wow.
of the Year. And when I was speaking to the audience, first of all, it's I think I've won about 9 awards that evening, and I won 4 or 5 major awards: Artist of the Year, Album of the Year, Song of the Year. And one of the things that was so cool is that jazz doesn't normally get awards and things that have all genres of music. You just don't see it get a height and up there like that. So one of the things I told the people in the audience, and there are mostly musicians, I was like, we got to start crossing over on our different genres and stuff and making new sounds and sharing our sound with other people's genres. You get horn sections in a lot of different types of music, but for me, I would love to do like an instrumental hip hop, or I'd love to do some of that crossover. That's something I'm very interested in.
That would be so awesome.
Mm-hmm. In one word, describe your sound.
Oof. I guess the best way, so growing up playing in church, I did a lot of discants and stuff like that because the choir would be singing the melody and I'd come in on the melody and they do a lot of, alternate stuff. And I started playing like soprano lines and stuff like that. So that kind of crafted me into, I'm more of a vocalistic type player. I approach my playing as a vocalist. So a lot of times when I'm soloing, I'm more tonal and I kind of stay in my groove, and I'm more of a ear type. Like I play more to people's ear versus flashy technical stuff. So a lot of straight ahead jazz, you can hear guys. I mean, it's like for saxophone, it's like Charlie Parker comes to mind. So Charlie was just like the bird was the man. I mean, the dude. If any musician listens to him, it's like, oh my Lord, like the way he flows over changes and how technical he is and his versatility, it's amazing. Same thing with like Dizzy Gillespie, for a trumpet player.
Oh yeah.
But for me, my sound's different because I lay more on like the Miles Davis, Chet Baker, Rick Brahm was a big influence for me. Chris Bodie. There's a lot of these guys they're obviously very versatile, and like Braun can play anything. But he played that, in that, I guess I don't want to say late 80s, probably like 90s to 2000s of that smooth jazz genre with him and Bonnie James. And he had that sound. It was just, man, it was funky, but it was real low key. I think my sound is more of a blend of those type of players. It's more of a laid back sound and a little more chill.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Now, I have a question for you. Actually, you kind of already answered it. If you could write like the perfect music for yourself, what would it be? And you kind of said it maybe be that fusion between what you're already doing and kind of like a hip hop tone. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I mean, I like all style. I can play. I mean, I love the blues. I love everything. So I just love playing different styles of music. And sometimes that can be commercial suicide in the fact of, if you don't home in on a certain area, then you're too widespread. You don't get the popularity that you're looking for. If you're a smooth jazz guy, you kind of stay in that realm and stay active to keep your fan base. And I'm not. I guess I'm just not that guy. I just love playing all different types of music. So to say like my perfect. I think for me, if your head nods when you're listening to it, then that's kind of where I want to be. I like the music. You kind of look at it, your head starts not. You just kind of get into it, and you're like, oh yeah, a little more funky, like. I don't know. That's a hard question to answer with the factor of my mind being so broad with what I do.
So tell us, who are some of your favorite musicians?
That's a good question. I mean, for me right now, I think that Houston, I live in Houston, and a little bit about my story, not to get too embellished on this, but I was in New Orleans playing professionally in New Orleans, and when I left New Orleans to come to Houston, I think it was like 2005, 2006. It was right before Katrina hit. I moved to Houston and I put my horn down because back then, like most of the bars we played in were like smoky and it's just late gigs and driving around, and I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't know anybody, so I didn't have to work my way back into a crowd, and so I put my horn down for 10 years, and I picked my horn back up in 2000, probably 14-ish, and started playing at, y'all know Houston. I mean, I was playing at the Red Cat and ended up doing their jazz night on Thursday nights and started kind of moving my way back into it. And 15 is when my album took off. And I got sidetracked on the question. I was talking about that. What was the original? Say it again. I was going there for a reason. I lost my brain thought.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Who are some of your favorite musicians?
So where I was going with that is, as I got in the Houston scene, I was really impressed with the sound that comes out of Houston. It's a unique. There's so many musicians that I couldn't just put a finger on it. You got like Kyle Turner, Dean James, Will Fortune. There's just guys everywhere that Kylan. They're all so different, right? And Ronnie Coleman. I could go on for days. Stephen Richard. These guys here, each of them are so unique, but it's like a gumbo of sound here. So I love the local sound of Houston, like what music puts out of Houston. I mean, obviously there's musicians all over the nation that, that make big influences on me. And if you look at my project with On the Surface, I've got Doc Martin on there. I've got Dave Hughes. I've got David P. Steve. I've got all these different guys. I mean, every song's got a whole new crew of players. And, there's just so much musical talent out there right now. And I feel like, that was the vision of my album, was to include as many people as possible. I mean, I had Frank McComb on there. was just endless. Antoinette Roberson was on there. All of these people had an influence on my sound, and I love making music with as many people as possible. And I think there's just so many phenomenal musicians out there that are on their own lanes and stuff like that. It's endless how much talent's out there right now. It's incredible.
And that's pretty cool. I didn't know Houston had such a really like diverse and, I like how you put it, a gumbo sound.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. I never knew that.
It really is. I mean, if you look at Dean James, for instance, I mean, Dean and I go way back. We're in Intervision Records together, and Dean and I have been friends for a very long time. And Dean's a smooth jazz artist. He can play anything. The guy can play anything, but smooth jazz is kind of is what he does. And he's been with multiple labels. He's got multiple big hits out there. You've got a guy like Dean playing in this lane in Houston, then you got like a Kyle Turner, and Kyle can play almost anything. I don't know if you know Kyle Turner, but Kyle's on the tenor is just incredible. I mean, all of these guys that are in Houston are so diversely, in my opinion, different. But when we all get together, it's like a unique sound. It's just different. Houston's just got a cool vibe.
That's very neat.
Yeah,
that is.
Well, you're close to Louisiana too, so you got your Cajun vibe.
Oh yeah.
You got your Cajun vibe mixed in, like the guy Corey James, which did a lot of the writing on my albums. Corey's from St. Louis. And then you got, it's just, so all these people are from different areas. That's why I kind of call it the gumbo, because people are coming in from all different areas, but they're making the sound of this area that's just kind of unique, in my opinion.
The St. Louis sound, I think of, because it's completely different, like Nelly.
Oh, holy
when he started rapping, he just had a different sound. And so I think he's from St. Louis.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's,
I think so.
I don't claim my, like the first album, 2015, the one with the picture that you like, the underwater deal. That one with some covers and like one or two originals. And that was like the same band playing the whole album. So, it was Dean and me and Andre Hayward and a whole bunch of guys, John Fontenot and Corey James. Anyways, all of us played that album, and it was like a straight recording. It was almost live. The one in 2017 is people from all, like, I had gone to NAMM. Y'all know about NAMM, right?
No.
So NAMM is like the big conferences in Anaheim, where all the musicians from the industry go down, and they fill up the entire convention center in Anaheim with like everything you can think of. Like, so this is where you get your endorsements, like, the different endorsements I have and stuff like that. We're all from being at NAMM and meeting people and testing products and making relationships. And all the musicians are there because they're checking out the new gear and so forth. And that's when I met a lot of the guys with Intervision. But I mean, all these people I met at NAMM ended up coming back and doing little parts of my project. So like the project itself spans, all over the nation, from guys, Doc Martin's out of DC and Danny's out of Minnesota. And, so it's kind of cool about that album is everybody's from all over the place. And with technology, you can record and just drop the tracks in.
Right.
And I mean, exactly. I was doing stuff with guys from England, and it's just like you just drop it in, and it's so anyways, it gets back to the gumbo theory.
Yeah.
You drop it in, mix it, and have a hit.
Yeah, a little jambalaya.
Exactly. Neil, you have a podcast yourself called Bourbon, Whiskey, and Jazz. Tell us about your podcast.
So I got into bourbons pretty heavy. I a lot of times with jazz, you see us tying with wine. And so, we were pretty big winos. My wife and I drank quite a bit of wine, and we got into it a little bit. But the problem with wine is that you open a bottle and you kind of got to put it back. Like, you got to finish it off because it's not going to last that long. You can aerate it or whatever, but once it's open, so. And the thing is, you get a really nice bottle. Well, it's like if you just got to look at it. If you open it, you got to drink it, And so I saw this show. I started getting into bourbons and whiskeys, and I thought the history of the spirit was really cool. And then I watched a movie called Neat, which is on Amazon, and it's about the story of bourbon, and it goes into like the process, and it was just, to me, was like fascinating. And so I got real into bourbon, started collecting. We have a bourbon room at my house. And I mean, like I think I've shown you a picture of it, but the whole room is like, it's got 3 or 4 walls with all these different real cool bottles. And, so I got into the bourbons real heavy. And it's not about getting like loaded. A lot of people, they say, you have all these bourbons. I'm like, yeah, the reason they're still here is because I don't pound them.
Exactly.
You have like a little tasting flight. Yeah, you sip on that. And that's what I liked about bourbon is I could sit on a bourbon for an hour and just sip on it. You're not like with wine, it goes back pretty quick too. With bourbon, you kind of sit there and pace yourself on it. I mean, don't get it twisted. If you do a little too much, you know it. But so anyways, I got into collecting, and I was trading them and different stuff, and started getting into the distilleries. I know a couple of guys like Whitmeyer's and a couple of these guys that I've met across the way through gigs. And so I decided to do a podcast on where I would cross over. I do it's called Bourbon, Whiskey, and Jazz, and it's been on hold since Corona hit. I've literally since March have completely stepped away as this, I'm starting to get back in now, but it literally shut everything down because I couldn't have anybody in my studio where I could, but most people are afraid to get out. And then I could always phone it in, but there's something a little more magical sometimes when you have people, especially if you have like a regular group that's part of the podcast.
That's true.
Yeah. So we pounded out a lot of issues right before. I mean, a lot of issues, a lot of episodes. We definitely had our issues when bourbon was involved, but we basically would take an artist, like a national artist, and I would invite them in on the show via phone or in the studio if they're from Houston, and then we would talk about a couple of their songs or whatever, and that kind of brought it from when I had my radio show. So we do that, and then we do a crossover where I'd have like a distillery or somebody in the industry of bourbon be on. Like I had Belfour on one of the episodes, which was extremely interesting. It's like Belfour, Eddie the Eagle from Balfour's. He won the Stanley Cup. He's the only player in the world to have won an Olympic medal, a national championship, and then the Stanley Cup.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so
that is really
it's kind of cool. And so his son and him got into bourbons and whiskeys. And so they have a distillery and they put all their stuff out. Well, they got in touch with the guy that was on my show. And so we ended up having him actually in studio, and he brought like a bunch of, one of the bottles has like the Stanley Cup on top of it. And we
nice.
And they're huge music fans. So we would talk about bourbons. He'd explain the process, and then he'd talk about music. And it was like bourbon and whiskey and jazz was like a cool combination of like, normally it crosses over. It was really unique. It was a really cool deal. I mean, I'm excited to get it back up and going. And it was a fun show. We'd have like a little fight night where we'd have two bourbons that would taste blind, and we wouldn't tell them what it was. And so you drink them, and then it could be like a $5 bottle versus a $100 bottle, and you wouldn't know. And then you would vote and say, okay, this one won. And you're like, oh my God, it was the old granddad.
It was the $5 bottle.
Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty fun, but we did a lot of cool, we'd have a toast at the beginning, toast at the end. And so it was a cool experience. I'm excited to get that back on. I mean, obviously with podcasts, I mean, they're fun. I mean, it's just, to me, they're like, they're vocal improv. When you're improvising the whole time. It's like natural and organic, and it's not planned. And, I was thinking about one of the things you were talking to me about was, this, a funny experience when I was on the road. I actually had during the podcast, we were in my office and my wife was doing something outside, and the faucet to outside is right outside of the window of my studio. And so, and so she wasn't paying attention. Well, whenever you turn the water on, it sounds like somebody has gas. Like it says like a roar sound. And so, yes. And so I had somebody in studio, and I had my English bulldog was laying in the room with us too. And so anyways, we were talking about the dog, and it was kind of snoring, and we were giggling. We got the giggles about it during the show, and it was kind of this thing. Well, we're talking to this guy. All of a sudden you can hear this roar, and I mean, it sounded bad. And we couldn't tell if the audience could hear it because we're mic'd. And so the mic, so you don't know if that mic's picking it up, but we had to go. Finally I had to stop the musician I was interviewing and be like, dude, I apologize, but there's a pipe outside that's making this noise. And I mean, we were like, the three of us that were in the room were like tearing up, and it's like when you're a kid and you're in church and you're trying not to laugh in church, and it makes it that much more funny. Exactly what happened. It was just, when you listen to the episode, it was funny. So anyway.
Oh, that's fun. Did your wife ever notice?
I told her after we recorded it, but it was just the whole episode. Funny. I can't remember which episode it was, but the whole episode, because then, during the show, the bulldog started snoring. Because if you've ever been around a bulldog, like when they fall asleep, and so we were giggling at that, and my buddy's like, he's just chasing squirrels, and it's just, into the dreams, it was really funny. So, but again, that's just the cool thing about podcasts.
Yeah.
That is, you never know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Because, our dog, Charlie,
Charlie.
every blue moon, he'll say hello, and we're like, well, sorry, it's live, people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I remember one of the first episodes, they started cutting down trees in the background.
Oh, yeah, they were cutting down trees in the backyard. And so you heard, like, kind of a zzz in the background. And we were like, oh.
It never fails on episodes when it's like dead quiet, and as soon as you start recording, some neighbor does something random. Like I'm like guys.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's the nice thing about having mics where you have to have a mic that you had to be a little bit closer to, so that you don't pick up on that outside. Because I mean, oh my God, in our neighborhood, you never know what's going to happen. We've got since Corona, not to get off topic, but with Corona. Our whole little neighborhood over here has gotten so tight because during Corona you couldn't go anywhere, and so we would be out in the yard, and our almost whole block now all hangs out. Like we'll have dinner and the whole crew will come in, and it was I don't know how about everybody else's, but our story was unique because we put a couch and stuff in our garage, and everybody come over and we'd test bourbons and cook food and just visit because none of us could go anywhere. Everybody's working from home.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So the only good thing about COVID was it definitely united our whole area. And then when you obviously did you guys have the freeze? Did you guys freeze during the Snowmageddon?
Oh yeah, we had we had Snowmageddon over here too.
Yep.
We busted 9 pipes in our house.
Wow.
We had turned the water.
We had 1 pipe.
Though. We were okay, but we didn't have power for 4 days. And so all in the house, we have all our exterior pipes in our attic. They're all insulated, but because we had no power, we had no heat. And because we had no heat at a certain point, and if I would have known it, I would have drained all the pipes to the house. I had the water dripping, but it was so cold, it didn't matter. The moving didn't matter. So anyways, while I was saying that is my neighbor's brother's a plumber. And the day after it blew, his brother and him spent a day and a half with us getting all our pipes fixed. And it's like, God is good. When you have neighbors like that, it's, and we would have never have met that neighbor if it had not been for Corona. So.
Oh, wow. Now that's cool. I mean, that it's bad that your pipes burst, but then you had, people to help.
Right.
Yeah. That we had the same kind of a story. A friend of mine, had a friend that came over and helped us out.
Yeah.
But we had the opposite. We were without water for 4 days, and we got our power back after a day.
We got our power back after a
y'all are
horrible
lucky.
night.
Yeah.
Boredom.
I know. That was the worst week. I never ever want to see snow ever again.
That was the first time I ever saw snow.
Yeah, that was the first time he ever saw
really?
Snow. He was just like, no, and I'm like, never want to see it again.
It was a unique experience. I mean, I think the other thing that was interesting about all this stuff that's happened it's been a wild year in Texas, but between the hurricanes and then Corona and everything else, but what one thing it did do is it forced everybody to slow down. I was always I had 3-4 jobs, between trying to tour with music and coach. Obviously I coach at a high level. So I'm touring. A lot of times I'd go to coach a tournament like in Orlando, and then I'd book a gig in Orlando because I was in Orlando. So I was always on the go, and it was like it forced you to be home and actually be around your family and be around everybody. And you're like, wow, this is like, it's just weird, I have to actually park your car and leave it there for a week, and it's like, it was just wild.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's kind of like now that people are starting to go out and about a little more. It's like, what did I do before COVID?
Yeah,
absolutely. And the musicians are taking a whole different turn because they're all doing stuff on Facebook Live and stuff like that. They're making just as much money on tips playing these live shows. So it's changed the game of music too, because a lot of these shows are going virtual.
It really has, because concerts. I'm tiny, so I hated concerts because I could never see. So now I can, I can pull up to the computer, open up the virtual concert, and I got a front row seat.
Well, right. So. And, you even think about it now, and I hate to say this, but I love sports, but I would just as soon sit in my movie room and watch a sport at home than go into the live game. I can actually watch it. I can see things better. And, I think that entertainment as a whole, and at the end of this, we were going to talk about what you're doing. I'll tell you about something I'm working on, but I think the entertainment stuff is going to start going to that as well. It's going to go to people watching it on personal devices and TVs and stuff like that more than going out.
100% agree.
All right. So we're going to go on a bit of a commercial break right
quick. Okay. We're going to go on a commercial break. Would you stay around with this, Preston?
You bet.
And talk
you
some
bet.
more? Okay. Guys, we'll be right back.
Yep. Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Welcome back, guys. And if you have not downloaded the Anchor.fm app,
do it
and start making your own podcast today.
All right, Preston, welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's get into the next round of questions.
These are the fun round questions.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah,
they're always fun to ask. But...
they're fun to ask.
They're fun to ask. There we go.
If you had to play another genre of music one time for an audience outside of normality, what would it be?
That's a good one. I think that ties back in, man. I would love to do a hip hop type vibe, like a rap hip hop type deal. I think that'd be totally cool. We had a group that I play with in Colorado called Kung Pao, and they were like an underground like rap group, and it was always so fun to play with. I mean, the crowds were, it was in Gunnison, Colorado, so it was like by Crested Butte, so it was a ski town. So whenever people were at those venues, it was like a big party, and it was the coolest vibe. I actually got to play on stage with George Clinton in Parliament.
Wow.
And when I played a festival with those guys in Colorado at one point in time.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. What is your favorite city and why?
Well, I mean, I'm partial to Houston because I live here, and all that we've been through as a city. I mean, I feel like we've had so many crazy events happen over the last decade that you just see people helping people. I'm very fond of Texas. I think that Hammond, Louisiana, and New Orleans are big in my heart, just from living down there, and I had a big deal living in Louisiana, because Louisiana is a cool place as well. The hard part is making a living in Louisiana.
Yeah,
the family atmosphere is unbeatable, and the people are just fantastic, and the music obviously is incredible. And the last one I would probably shout out there is Atlanta. Atlanta, some people don't like Atlanta. I was born in Fulton County, so I was born in Atlanta, but they had the biggest appreciation.
Wow.
Like my fan base was biggest in Atlanta. They love jazz and smooth jazz in that area. And so I got to give a shout out to Atlanta. They're awesome as well.
Absolutely. We love Atlanta. Well, you're going to laugh, the Coke Museum. I could
go to the absolutely
Coke Museum every day, all day. I
don't like to single out cities so bad when I do that. And New York, all that stuff's got cool stuff, but yeah, Atlanta's just got something different about it. It's a cool town.
Yeah, it is. It's like a kind of a laid back vibe all over the city.
Just
really.
raid the Coke Museum and then
exactly. I grew up in San Antonio too, which is a cool city. I don't know if you'll have been there, but that's a cool city. It's like a big little city.
Oh yeah.
I haven't been to San Antonio in years.
Yeah, I haven't been in years either, but it's a nice place to go.
It's growing like you wouldn't believe. Like I went back in there and I was like, oh my God, like where I went to high school is now like its own city. I was like, dear Lord, it was like cow pastures when I was there. And they're blowing up over there.
Oh wow. Everybody wants to move to Texas.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to be.
Exactly.
All right, now this one is a little bit serious. If you could only take 5 things to a desert island, what would they be?
Well, I better say my wife, because she's going to listen to this. So we'll get. And of course, I could say mom, but 4 bottles of bourbon.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, if I was stuck, I mean, I would obviously want to take my horn. I would take it, and definitely have to bring a little bourbon. That's a hard thing to think about. What's important to you. Can you bring your cell phone? That opens up a whole other dynamic, or a generator for that matter. When we had the freeze, that was like life-saving as having a generator. I thought that was like unbelievable. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it opens. I mean, you think it's like an easy question, like, oh, without a doubt, and then you're like, well, hey, I take this, maybe not. No, I take that.
Right.
So,
hey, absolutely. Yeah. You got to be careful what you say. I'm probably gonna bring my in-laws too, because they're gonna listen to the show too. I'm like, can't forget them. It's like, who am I gonna forget? So.
That's true.
That's true.
And then you have to take the dogs and your cat. So it's kind of.
I don't know if I'd want the dogs on an island. It'd be a lot of cleanup. It matters on the size of the island.
Yeah,
let's get that in the question, because I don't want them going to the bathroom right next to me all the time. So.
Oh yeah.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oof, that's a good one. I would say healing, man, to be honest. I hate to see people suffer. I've always had a weak point of, when something happens, I've in it. So back in Louisiana, I was a fireman. I thought that was I felt like a superhero when I was a fireman, like coming into wrecks and coming into like different situations or running into a house. You just have this, it's an adrenaline rush, but it's like you're there. Firemen are true angels, and people discount, police a lot of times too, but those guys, when you need them, when we were firemen, like those guys would be running into a scene in front of us a lot of times. And, those guys they save people by the, minute, you know, angels. So, if I had a superpower, I'd love to do the healing side, seeing all the stuff that I saw as a fireman, helping people in that sense would be something I would want to use. I'd love to say I have a get something, but I think the healing's a little more important.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I say teleportation all the time. Now that I think about it, considering how much I hurt myself,
Yeah.
I need healing.
Yeah, you never know where you're gonna. Yeah, teleportation would be kind of cool, but
yeah,
that's true.
I'll tell you, as a musician, it might be cool because if you have a bad gig, you can just kind of hit a button and go away.
Yeah.
You have a bad set, you'd be like, all right, I'm out. I'll see y'all later.
I'm out. I'm teleporting somewhere else. Goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you rather go back in time or to the future?
Honestly, I hate to twist your question. I just kind of like living in the now. I think that the past creates
That's a good answer.
I think that the people, the things, the mistakes I've made in my past as a musician make my sound. I think, a lot of times the country singer says, well, if you haven't had your dog die or life wet, leave you, and if you haven't been broke, and if you haven't done this, you don't, all these things that happen to you in your life create, some of the best music I've made is at the lowest points of like just really painful situations. And so I think that creates who I am. And I'm not really in a rush to get to the future because I'm getting older. And I'm like, I don't, when I was in my 30s, I'm like, man, I was still super athletic and playing beach volleyball and touring and stuff. And it's now I'm like, I try to go play volleyball and I get angry. So I'm like, I can't jump off the sand anymore. And so, I'm kind of enjoying the now and, kind of put God in the driver's seat. I'm just sitting in the shotgun, sitting passenger, letting him take his thing. Right. So
that's a great answer.
That is.
It's a great answer.
What is the one piece of advice you would give to people who want to be in the music industry?
Learn. You really got to, the music industry can eat you up. There's you need to know all your legalities. You need to know that, as much as everybody loves each other, it's a business. And so you got to make sure that you document and, use your legal team and use your, different assets to, because it's very easy to get with somebody. Like when I was a younger musician, I'd get together, make a song and just throw it out there. And now with technology, you got to be careful because if something takes off, and you don't have your rights covered or you don't have licensing or if you don't have this or that, it can really get you in trouble. And it's not your intent that matters. It's, understanding how things work. And I think the game has changed so much to the factor of, I think the younger musicians coming up are going to have advantage because, when we were growing up, it was all about radio. Like I remember the first time I saw him play on the radio and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then I realized I was getting like a fraction of a penny for it playing on the radio, Now Sirius XM is obviously a big one. They pay well and Music Choice and stuff like that still pay. But, the majority of your money, if there is to make made, is on the marketing side, endorsements and stuff like that. I remember DJ Capri and I were having a conversation. He was like, I did this deal and I'm going to leave the musician now, but he did a deal and he let an artist have every bit of the album sales that he wanted. He just wanted to make a commercial. And he said that, the artist made X amount of money, but he made like a bunch of money off of a Colgate commercial with that artist. They just, wow. It's like the ability with these artists, it's more about, the ads. Look at football players and stuff. They make a lot of money to play football, but look at all the commercials they're doing and stuff. And they're making a lot of advertisements and stuff.
Yeah.
And reality is in the next few years, if not already, everything's streamed. there's not. When was the last time you downloaded a song?
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
It's
I'm
been a
serious.
long
Or when was the last
time.
time? I mean,
Yeah.
for us, buying albums at the store. You go into the record store and
Yeah.
buying a CD or buying an album, and now that's when it was
That was
lucrative.
like fun.
It was fun, and that's when music was lucrative because it
Exactly.
cost 10 cents to make a CD, and you're selling it for $10. Well, that's why everybody was getting so rich off the music thing. Now it's everybody it's streaming, but I mean they have these millions of streams for like a couple $1,000s type thing because there's no payment for the stream. So
Wow.
I think that what really hurt the industry is when LimeWire and I can't remember what it was called, like Net something, where they could just download, like you could file share, and do you remember that?
Oh,
No,
I
I
think
don't
it
remember
was called
that.
Napster or something like that. Like everybody would go on,
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
all these artist
I
tracks
remember.
people had bought and downloaded, where you could join this service and just download other people's music. It's like a file share. And so people stopped buying
Yeah, I
music,
remember
and
that now.
that's when I believe, I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a historian, but I believe that's when streaming took off, is because you started paying for the service versus the download. And
right.
so
Right.
now it's like, I mean, everybody streams. Pandora, Spotify, Apple Music is now a
Yeah.
streaming service. I mean, you can download what you want when you pay for your subscription. And so it's really affected the music industry. And then maybe it's good. I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah. Never thought of that much.
I never thought about it that much. I mean, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because I remember Napster was like the guy with the little headphones and
Yep.
it looked like a little cat
Well,
with headphones.
Yeah.
And that
Go
was,
ahead.
that was, no, just gonna say, and that was like the new thing to do instead of, going trucking off to buy your DVDs,
Yeah.
your CVDs.
Last time I saw a CD, I was
Yeah.
a child.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was like,
thanks for getting us. See if I come
I
on
know,
your
right?
show
Thanks for
again.
making us feel very old. Exactly, right? He's made us both feel,
Well,
ancient now.
Yeah. Welcome.
The flip side of it is that the music, the amount of people you can reach is unheard of. Like, I mean, you can play your music anywhere in the world and it doesn't cost anything. So before, somebody might not download your music, they don't want to pay for it, but now you're on different playlists you don't even know. Like I was on something on my phone, and I was looking through some things, and I just typed my name in. And I came in on this like Hispanic show. All I know is it was like blah 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 blah,
Wow.
Preston Smith, and then blah, 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 blah. And there it's. I mean, it's like you just don't know. It's all over the world now. It's crazy.
That's true. You're right. And then, like for example, with TikTok, TikTok, you can get on there and do a concert for free and have 1 million people watch.
Right.
And then, they're going to share it. And so it's, yeah, you're right. It's like, I think the new artists and things, they have such an advantage technologically as compared to before.
Your broadband of listeners is larger. The problem is there's not as much money off of that listener base.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's when, I think a lot of them are starting to do like merchandising.
That's exactly right. That's why it costs $100 to go to a concert now. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in addition to all that you have going on, what's next?
Well, I need to get back on my horn. I mean, I got to get making some music again, and kind of, now that everything's coming back to real life again. I mean, it's hard to play with the mask on your face, so,
right.
But I have a buddy of mine that we're talking about, we're trying to do, he's already done it. I'm just working with him on it. They've already done the whole thing, but he's got a platform that's going to be kind of like a Netflix, but for live venues or live events. And it's based to let the musicians make money as well as the venue, as well as the artist. But it'll be like a platform like Netflix. So like you could see a pre-recorded show, like a pay-per-view type thing, or you could see me live and it would come up on your TV or any device, everything. Literally literally where you'd go to Netflix, like on your phone or on your TV, like a Roku TV, you would hit his platform and it would be able to show like live concerts and live events and stuff like that. So, kind of pressing on the technical world a little bit.
That sounds fun.
It does.
That sounds.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys probably in it. I mean, it's it's one of those platforms that's open ended on who can use it and how it's used. Everything's moving to that type of technology nowadays,
Yeah, it is. It really is. And if you don't learn it, if you don't know it, then you're going to kind of get
Well,
left
I
behind.
guarantee your son can figure out something 10 times faster than us. But I'm a tech nerd, but
absolutely.
A lot of times, from St. Vincent's, that. I mean, obviously, I worked IT.
I was about to say,
you want to know how to fix something, you Google it.
You've helped me many a times. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you've helped me many a times with my computer.
Well, that's exactly. That's how do you fix this? I don't know. Let me Google it real quick, and we'll figure it out. Yeah, that or YouTube.
Thanks, Google.
It's that or YouTube, man. It's the way to do it.
Yeah, Google or YouTube.
Google. Yeah. So, what is the one thing you want our audience to know?
I don't think it's about me. I think it's the thing that's nice about shows like what you guys do. It's a platform for us to meet people and to introduce them to what we do. But for me, it's about just understanding that there's artists out there that want to get in the music field, and hopefully we talked a little bit about that, or giving them a little advice I didn't have when I was going into it. And then secondly, it's just about making music. I mean, I just hope people continue to make music. I feel like it's a dying art form. A lot of the youth aren't into it as much as we were as kids, and I hope people continue to pass that torch. It's I'd hate to see live music go away, and it feels like it is. Everything, you can generate music on a computer, and it's cheaper, and it's just like a factory. You can have all robots, and it'd probably be less on bills. I mean, music's the same thing. If we don't look for live, like how many tracks do you hear with real drums on it, or real bass, or real players? Now it's sometimes it's all computerized and just the artist. So hopefully people keep looking for live music and supporting artists, and give people props about creating music.
That's great. That's a good thing to keep people thinking, because you're right. Live music
is going away.
Corona hurt it. Yeah, Corona hurt it big time. It's still not as common as it is. So even if it's live music that's streamed, we just gotta keep supporting these guys, because the reality is there's so many artists that have left music because you can't make a living at it, and it's insane. And I would tell any artist to make sure they have a job before they don't try to live off your music when you're starting, because it's an investment in order to get to the levels at this time. With you've got radio producers and all different things and all types of things you got to invest in to be able to get your music to the areas that you want them to go to. So and gigs don't pay that much.
That's true. You're so right.
Where can people find you on social media?
Social media. I mean, obviously I'm on Facebook. You can just look me up, Preston Smith. I do have a a Facebook page, Preston Smith Jazz, and I've got my Bourbon Whiskey and Jazz Facebook page as well. But I have 2 Facebook accounts. One of them's maxed out. So if you type in Preston Smith, unless somebody gets mad at me and drops me, I'm usually at that cap of 5K. But I have a Preston Smith 2, which is like 2 capital I's, Preston Smith, and then 2, which I'm still have some room on. So, if anybody wants to follow what I'm doing on that end, it's my personal account. So you get all kinds of stuff from volleyball to music to, whatever else I'm getting into. And I'm on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. I'm not as heavy on Instagram. I do have it. It's Preston Smith as well. You can find anything on my website, PrestonSmithJazz.com. And I'm on YouTube and all that kind of stuff as well, but it's all under my name. Just on YouTube, you got to put Preston Smith Jazz, because there's an NFL player named Preston Smith, which blows my mind, but the dude gets more hits than me. So you have to put in Preston Smith Jazz, and once that pops up, you'll see me. And
okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
Listen,
so much
I appreciate you guys having me. It's
been
a blessing to talk to y'all.
Likewise, and we've had a very good time chatting with you.
Anytime, I'm always around, and I appreciate all you guys do.
That was a great interview. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Now, as a special treat, Preston will play us out of this episode. If you want more, make sure to check out his website and follow him to find out when he starts to gig live. Until next time, peace out.